Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. We are an anime podcast where we watch an anime, and then with every 2 weeks we discuss that anime. That sounds like we watch the same anime then talk about it every 2 weeks. No, we watch like a new anime, and then
We just watch ReZero over and over again.
that's only slightly true. So
Yeah.
there's like a hint of truth to that. So we act like we're a book club that watches TV. We discuss characters and themes and plot and give reviews of the anime that we've watched, and then we turn that discussion over to you, the listener, to make it better, to do it better, because we live up to our names of Baka, which means idiot. Does anyone know that? Because we're smart.
That's what it means?
We're bilingual.
We only know one word. That counts.
Well, I mean, we could say Omae no Kachan de Beso, but
Well, you could say that.
Can we? I don't know.
I can't say that.
Anyway, we watched Solo Leveling, and to help me discuss it, I need the help of my co-host. First off, we have the 7 to my Final Fantasy. It's Jeremy with his hot take.
Maybe? There's no way Date Alive should be number 2 on the leaderboards right now. There. That's my hot take.
Oh, that's fire.
starting fights.
No way.
I honestly don't know what it is, but it's always on the top of the charts. The
Yeah,
Date Alive fan club is powerful. Don't mess with them.
I don't get it. They're crazy.
I guess you'll have to pick it for your next anime. Just really dive deep.
I don't know. That seems more like a Jason pick to me.
Fair. That's fair.
Speaking of, we also have the Till the End of Time to My Star Ocean. It's Jason.
The best live action anime adaptation by far is Alita Battle Angel.
I thought you said that about Ghost in the Shell.
No, I said Ghost in the Shell live action was underrated.
Oh, okay. I
All
agree
time.
with you on that one.
All time.
All time.
I think so. I think
Way-
I agree
What, like leagues.
Nope.
Leagues
There's
better
no way this is true.
than Speed Racer.
God dang it!
that. That's all this was. Just a jab.
Sizzling.
No, it's not true. It's impossible. All right, and my name is Troy. I have a really hot take. This is gonna get me in trouble.
Oh, can't wait for that.
I'm gonna provide context after, but I'm just gonna say it, guys. Comic books tell stories better than manga does.
Spicy.
Yeah, that's rough. I've been reading.
This audience, my goodness.
I know. I've been getting into manga on some of the. I've been reading Jujutsu Kaisen. I've been reading some of Undead Unluck. For me, there is like a disconnect in the action. I just don't get the flow of the action in manga very well. It's like Jujutsu Kaisen, that's like one of the most action packed, right? And a lot of times I'm like, I can't understand who's hit who.
You read it right to left.
Yeah,
correct?
Yeah, no, I know. It's not my first time reading manga, but this is the first time I've started getting more into manga and reading manga a lot more. And as someone who's also always read comic books, and I just feel like they communicate the sense of action better in my very short experience. So happy to be told where to look to be proven wrong, but at this time. And it's mostly Jujutsu Kaisen, to be fair. So maybe that's just the problem. But yeah,
Well,
I get the stories are great, but I just don't get the sense of action, the flow. it doesn't communicate it well to me.
And if you're going to recommend something to him, make sure it's a shoujo.
Yeah. Don't need a shonen, just a shoujo.
Well, no, it's got to have action. As long as there's action, I don't care if it's a shoujo.
Well, there's plenty of action in some shoujo.
You would know.
As much as you.
Guys, Jujutsu Kaisen, though, what's going on in the story is super fun.
How would you know? You don't get the action.
Because it says Black Flash, really big words.
Like, really big. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was what I was going to tell you about in our recap. I've been reading Jujutsu Kaisen, and it got really good in the story. Before we start, we just talk about like our day. That's not important. I'm gonna start. I'm tired.
Let's go.
Let's go. Solo leveling. Who's hype to hear us talk about solo leveling? This is not the podcast for you. Go away.
Yeah.
Hey, let's give our non-spoiler review of solo leveling. Jeremy, why don't you start us off? Even though I picked it, I like to go last.
It's not what I thought it was going to be. I liked it while I watched it. It definitely has like a lot of hype and a lot of excitement in the moment. But the longer I spent away from it, the less I liked it. It just didn't really come. I didn't come away with a lot to think about. And I had a lot of complaints while I was watching it. So, I mean, that's probably going to give you a good idea of what my final review is going to be. But yeah, I don't know. If you don't have anything else that on your plate that you're looking forward to watching, and you just want something action packed but very kind of shallow, then sure, go for it. You might enjoy it.
All right, Jason. How about you?
The animations and the fight scenes are beautiful. And I really
Someone said not
No.
for the giant butt here.
I know, right? At episode 12, story-wise, I felt like I was still at episode 6. I don't know anything about the world. And you can't have a power system, bring in a new power system, and then attempt to compare the two, but then break your own rules constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I have no reason to root for anybody in this anime, and I don't know who anybody is. They brought in way too many characters. Anyways, I'm getting way off topic. I had fun with most of the scenes, but I don't know what I watched.
Okay.
That's kind of yeah.
Little caveat before mine. I don't like power fantasies. They don't work for
And
me.
I do.
Yeah, you do.
I selectively like them. This is the kind of flavor that I would normally like.
I like how it starts. It has a really cool opening, and then I was bored to tears for the next 10 episodes. I'm not going to have nice things to say. I really thought I'd be arguing with these guys. I thought the power fantasy was going to grab them, and I would have. And honestly, I kept thinking of the past 3 days. I've just thought, hey, is there stuff wrong with it, or is it just my taste is not aligning with it? And I've been back and forth, like, yeah, well, it didn't have any stakes. Well, no, it definitely had stakes. It definitely put the character in danger. So it's not even doing proper power fantasy, or it is. It's it's doing everything right. Jeremy said the best. So this is like simple. It is
Shallow
and thin, and there's nothing to care about. The main character who's getting overpowered and can be fun, but there's like no conflict about it. He's not using it for the greater good. He's just like, okay, I'm just gonna keep doing this. I saw a writing tip come from the creators of South Park, of all people, and they said when they plot out a story, if you go from point A to point B and you say and then, your story is bad because those two plot points are not actually connected. He did this, and then he did this. Those are just two separate things that happen to be together in your story. Everything they said they have to say therefore or but. He did this, but then this happened, therefore this happened. Now all three of those things are connected. He did thing A, thing 2, or thing B got in its way, and then thing C happened as a result. Now your story's all connected. This felt very much and then. He does this, and then he does this, and then he does this. That's how I felt. I'm sure as we go through the recap, maybe I can be proven wrong, but that's how I felt when I was watching it and walking away. Also, that's some of the best writing advice I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one.
From the South Park creators.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Really good.
I had to process that for a minute.
Okay. Opening and closing, guys. What did you think?
Passable. I had nothing to write home about. But both. Like, I watched them multiple times, and I kind of don't like the visuals of the opening was okay, but I don't almost remember them.
Yeah, I think the reason that I don't remember them, I had to watch it right before the episode just to refresh my memory, which I usually do. That's not a knock. I like the music a lot, but the visuals, well, they're pretty and they have characters that are in the anime in them. They don't necessarily have the characters that are in the anime the way that we see them in the anime. Like, they're not recognizable. There's powers that are used that are never shown to us in the anime. I think it's just a lot of references to things that are in the future for the anime that are already in OP for season 1. And that's a weird decision. I don't know if I've seen that before. If I have, maybe I've forgotten or I didn't catch it, but I don't think I like it because it just leaves me confused. I would like more context. If you're going to show me a bunch of cool footage in the OP, at least let it be things that are going to be memorable when I finish watching it or that it crescendos up to, For the outro, I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued by what does that mean? Why do we have just this series of shots of only the young version of him, the initial version of him, in what looks like some kind of science facility? The music, it's fine. But that scene gets all my gears working, and I'm suspicious about so many things about the world building of this anime and what's really going on. I don't have any theories, but I don't think anything we're seeing is true.
Dropping the theories early.
God, makes it worse.
My thoughts. Actually, when I watched the OP, I felt it was almost too spoilery. He's fighting the blue rock monster, and like that. It was a 10-second scene, but that does happen. He fights the Red Knight, like all that stuff gets shown, and when I knew the Red Knight fight was going to happen in this anime where it happened because of the OP. So I think the song's great. I really like the opening song.
Now that you've mentioned that, it just screams the OP is just member berries. Like, remember he fought this thing? Remember he fought the Red Knight?
But I think it's member berries for people who've read the manga.
Maybe.
I don't know where this, if this is from a manga, that would be my guess.
It's the Korean version of manga, and I don't remember the word.
Oh, okay.
Like manga, huh? No. Oh, now we're really idiots. I should know.
Oh this. Man, if anybody should.
Mangwa. Final answer. I didn't look it up. I'm probably wrong. Anyway, this is a Korean anime, which I felt was reflected in the music. It reminded me of the Tower of God opening song.
That's right.
It felt very similar to that. My thoughts on the ending, also super intriguing. Feels like it's in the wrong anime. Because I'm like, how does this connect? There's almost, it's so completely different from everything we're seeing. There's no hint of any of this in the ending. Is it all metaphor or is any of this real? It's not anywhere in the anime. and it is super intriguing. I'm like, if this was the anime, I'd be into this anime. But it's not. It's just in the ending, and it just made me angry every time I watched it. I'm like, he's running from doors. There's someone watching him on monitors. I'm like, oh, is this gonna? No, this isn't gonna happen. No.
Nope. Not in this season, at least.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like story-wise, like I'm on episode 5. Like,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it feels like it was on fast forward the whole time.
I was about to say, I can, and I know we're getting out of the, like, what'd you think of
Spoiler-free
it?
territory.
Well, no. The what'd you think of it episode or portion we're into the OP and ED, but like I couldn't help constantly comparing this to Danmachi because you've got
Mm-hmm.
a dungeon you have to go into,
Mm-hmm.
but like his storyline was not only more compelling, even though there was a lot of fan service, but I
You
like
say
a
that
slow,
like it's a bad thing.
I know, right? I like a slow burn. They're doing a decent slow burnish with the story, but the problem is that we never get anywhere.
Yeah.
Anyways.
In the story, yeah. I mean, they take baby steps by the end.
And I'm just like, everything they did, I was just like, Don Machi did it better. Don Machi did it better.
Ouch.
Okay. Our next anime is Frieren. Guys, we're watching Frieren. Of old name?
I'm so happy.
I know almost nothing about this, so I'm very curious because I've heard good things, but
Frieren Beyond
tried to
Journey's
stay
End.
blank.
Yep. This is a 2-core anime that we'll be watching. So we're gonna watch the first 14 episodes for our next podcast. So if you're following along with us, that you're just gonna watch the first 14 episodes. This is the story of an elf who was a member of the heroes party, but because elves live for a long time, long after that adventure, she decides she's gonna just retrace her steps, and because elves live a long time, and I don't know. I keep getting To Your Eternity vibes, but I've been told I'm wrong. That's just what I get from trailers and clips that I've seen.
To me, the impression I get just from Reputation is like Violet Evergarden.
Huh.
I really liked that anime.
I remember.
I like both those animes. Yeah, obviously the big hit of the last 2 seasons of anime, so we were just waiting for it to get done, and now it's time to watch it. All right.
Yep.
Spoiler warning for Solo Leveling for just the anime. No one's read anything after it or anything like that. But yeah, 12 episodes. This is their first season. I'm assuming they'll get more. And we're going to be spoiling
There's
it
an
all
announce-
as of this moment.
It's already been announced.
Yeah, it's already been announced
I'm sure.
for season 2.
Before we get into plot, though, I want to say one thing I liked about this anime, watching it, knowing that this is a Korean, South Korea location rather than Japan, is the subtle differences between the two cultures. They seem like a little extra polite compared to Japanese characters, little bit more of the bowing and respecting their elders, and also a little bit more infrastructure and economy focused in their storytelling too. I also watched. We didn't do it on the podcast, but I have seen God of High School, and kind of got some of the same vibes from that, where they kind of just. It's almost like there's a focus on how our business world and our government are tied together into the plots of our stories. This has that too, and I'm wondering if that's a very Korean culture thing versus what I usually see with Japanese stories. All right, now on to the actual story. It starts with us seeing a giant battle. This apparently happened a couple years before the main story, where monsters are running loose on an island, and these, what are called hunters, we'll get to that in a second, are battling them. They're magic users, and they're fighting giant ants. And we learn from the story they lost. And if this feels like I'm not giving it the proper story respect, that's because they don't either. This is modern world, but magic portals started opening up and monsters from a fantasy world started spilling out. But at the same time, specific certain humans started getting magic powers, and then they are able to rank these magic powers based on how powerful you are. And we are told you can never ever change your power level if you're, and of course they rank them because this is going to be a gotcha game, I assume at some point. There's S tiered all the way down to E tier, and we're told no one can raise their power level until later in the story. We're like, oh, unless you do a second awakening, then you can totally raise your power level.
Yeah,
Not raised, you just get
You re-roll the dice on your stats.
You basically re-roll. But it sounds like if you reawaken, whatever your new power level is, you don't change that either.
Yeah, you're stuck with that one too. Or you could be a false ranker and maybe you have a higher rank, but you always just hit it and pretended to be lower.
And you didn't. There's all kinds of complications. Now, in this modern world, the act of going into these portals where there's magical dungeons is basically become a job. Not only a job, the people who do it, especially the S ranks, are celebrities. They're the superstar athletes, the movie stars of this world.
And it's also become very mundane for the populace. Like, people stand outside
and are frustrated. The traffic's disrupted.
Yeah, they're like eating popcorn or like, watching it as if it like, a traffic accident just happened. It's very under control.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to call this out now. We keep throughout the story. There's weave stories of the different hunter guilds. The hunters are what the people with magic powers are called, and they have guilds. And we keep seeing like their business practices and how like the government wants to use what's coming out of the dungeons for clean energy, but it's also used for creating new gear for the leveling. We meet a bunch of the S rank hunters and kind of get to know their personality. None of it matters to the plot we're told in these 12 episodes, and it is insane. So I'm not going to keep talking about it in the story recap because I don't know why I would.
The other thing to note about these portals that open, if they're not taken care of, monsters pour out into the real world.
Yeah. Yep. So one thing I really like about the celebrity nature of these S tier hunters is you almost get a sort of The Boys flavor of it, where these guys are so powerful that there are no laws, there are no governments that can keep them in check. It's up to whether or not they're good people, really, and what they stand to gain by being good people. That's what determines their behavior. So some of them are not great, and it makes me wonder, like, what's going on behind the scenes that we're not told about. They're pretty vicious in some cases. And the other thing that I really like is incorporating the things that you get back from the monsters, the resources, in this way is something that it's not often done. It is done sometimes, but it's not often. And that's probably just because we don't normally have the juxtaposition of, modern world with fantasy dungeon. But to see that, I like that a lot. And I wish that we could have explored that more and maybe had that be one of the important storylines that threaded into this in season 1. But yeah, like you said, Troy, they kind of dropped the ball with everything else.
I did want to call out especially the one storyline. So basically that war on that island, or that battle on the island where a dungeon had broken, the ant monsters had gotten out, the humans lost. And he's the head of the Hunters Guild Association. There's the Hunters Guild Association, and then there are multiple guilds for hunters, and it's very confusing. But anyway, he is working with both the government and his own S-rank hunters within his group to coordinate a new attack on this island to go back and try again. And that story is brought up like once per episode. It's weaved through. It is in no way connected at this point with the main story. But if you're like, hey, that is going to be important, don't forget to mention it. Now it's officially mentioned, and I don't have to care about it the rest of this podcast.
Also, no, we don't get a resolution or even any more information than what he's already given you by episode 12.
Yeah. But one minor correction is this will be the third time that they go back there. And the last time where they failed, it was, I guess, it could have been the third as well, but it could have been the second, because he says, I don't feel like that last time ever ended. Like, we're just going back to finish what we started there. So it's not a new time. So it could be that the third time has already happened, and this is the fourth time, but he's calling it the third time. I don't know
Third
exactly
time's
where
a
that comes
charm.
from. Yeah, he just can't let go of the 3. But suffice to say, that island has been a problem for some time, and now at the end we discover that there's some kind of evolution that the monsters are going through that they didn't expect. So another rule is broken that we didn't really understand the ramifications of. I don't think it ever even mattered that the monsters couldn't evolve. Like one of the ants has wings basically and drown on its way away from the island. So that's kind of the like episode 12 spoiler that is completely unrelated to the story of the anime.
Wait, the bugs fly now?
This one. Apparently
Sure
it's a
got that.
dead strain because it wasn't very successful.
I know a Star Wars reference when I hear it, Jason. Don't worry about it.
I was talking Helldivers too.
No, you were doing Helldivers too. And the bugs don't fly.
Yeah,
Not
yeah, they
never.
do.
I don't believe it.
Is it
They also
Geonosis?
can't. They also can't travel through space. No one
That-
knows
that
how they
is
get
true.
from planet to planet.
I think everyone knows,
Guys,
but no one knows. Anyways,
story happens. There's a low it's a low dungeon.
Yes,
They rank the
yes.
dungeons D. It's a D rank or an E rank. I don't remember.
it's a D rank dungeon,
D
but
rank dungeon.
one level under hunters can go in it if they're accompanied by the level of the dungeon.
And I love this setup because it's like people showing up for contract work for mining or like construction job. There's fencing. There's a food truck off to the side. People are like chatting over coffee as they're waiting for all the different people on the contract to show up. I was like, this is cool. This is a really cool concept and idea that this is, again, it's mundane. This is just how the economy works now for the world. And our main character shows up and he is a rank E, but even in rank E's, he sucks. He is considered he is literally called the weakest of all of the hunters. That is his nickname. It's not very catchy, but they just were trying to be mean and not clever. His name is Jinwoo Song. He is our main character. He's also going to be the character who's able to power up throughout the story, which is a major aspect when we talk about his character. So I just want to bring that up. Jinwoo Song, your guys' thoughts?
I think there was just, he is literally the personification of potential, but story-wise, they fell on their face when it came to the potential part. There was no. It's kind of like what you're talking about in the beginning. That it's just and then, like he's this way, and then he's this way, and then he's cold, and it's like there was no evolution to
You're talking
anything.
about his personality shift.
His personality,
Mhm.
his power levels, his when we first meet him, we have to take into consideration things like if he takes hits, it's as if he's getting stabbed in the real world. Like,
Mhm.
unless a magic healer heals him, he's in the hospital nearly every run. His sisters consider constantly worried about him always being in the hospital. And also, like, when he's any money that he makes from these dungeon raids, he's constantly spending on himself for his hospital bills, and then he has to pay for his mom who's also in the hospital,
And his sister's college.
right? But then he gets to this nebulous power level, which he gets like 3 different challenges throughout the rest of the anime that don't feel like challenges except for maybe the last one. And I just it was hard to root for him. It was hard to connect with him, and like there's no journey. It was just this thing happens, and then this thing happens, and then I'm gonna open this dungeon, and then I'm gonna get penalized, and then I gotta do more push-ups. It's like, I don't know. I didn't really like him.
Yeah. I mean, there's clearly 2 versions of him. You have the before becoming a player version and then the after becoming a player version. I kind of liked the before becoming a player version, although there is a major issue I have with just his thought process that bugged the heck out of me. And that is if he's really so strapped for money and he's trying to take care of his sister and his mother, then he should have just stuck with the construction job, because that at least guarantees, or at least has a far higher probability that he's going to survive to the next day and not have hospital
Money's
fees.
good though, because I mean, we're
Well,
talking like 30 grand a dungeon run.
Right.
But like what I'm saying is like, so a lot of the contracts that we were exposed to, it was like 30 grand up front, and then anything you pull out of the dungeon, you can then also sell as well. And he never came out with anything because he was always hurt.
yeah, see, and that's the reason that I think it doesn't make any sense, is because if he's only getting that much, and he was saying that it's barely enough to cover her expenses in the hospital and his sister's college and his own expenses in the hospital, all it takes is one mission where the healer doesn't get to him in time and he's gone and they have no one to help. So honestly, the responsible thing for him to do would have been just to get the construction job that he had to keep it. And so that moment where he's doing the construction job and he looks down at his gloved hands and he's like, I don't want to do this forever. I'm going to go test and go in the dungeon instead. To me, that just read like, I want a shortcut. I want an easier way to do this, right? Which turned out to actually be extremely difficult, even when he did transition into being the player character and he had to work out, like with Saitama's routine, basically. and and then if he didn't do it, be chased down by giant centipedes, right? Like, so life got really difficult, and he had to do a lot of things that he wouldn't do if he had a choice, right? Maybe didn't want to do them, but now he had to do it to survive. And it just seems odd to me that it had to be in the circumstance where he was in the dungeons and getting this player thing that's going to hit him with daily quests. He could not just make himself do what he didn't want to do with construction. Which, I mean, another point is like, how many civilians are there? And the civilians they're making money, they're living their lives, they're okay. Just because he's awakened and he's got a power level of 10, it doesn't mean he has to go in the dungeons. There's like disabled hunters and stuff. So I mean, just all of that was going through my head as the anime progressed, and I was like, what kind of person is he? Who is this character that they've created? And so to me, he just kind of comes across as a very selfish. And I think in the last couple episodes, there's a moment where like the younger version of him comes back and taunts the older version of him. I say older, but it's just like the leveled version of him.
Right.
um, and he kind of says the same thing where he's like, you're just greedy and you want power and this, that, and the other. And I don't know if the anime is trying to move towards a deeper philosophical evaluation of his character, or if they're just presenting a character that's going to say mean things about him to give him more motivation to, power up more. Like, I don't know which reason they brought the character in to say that, but I do agree with that character. The evaluation seems pretty spot on. And yeah, so that's one thing that's kind of annoying to me. But the fact that he changes so much when he levels is really cool. I like that a lot. Like, every time that you make a character in an RPG, whether it's digital or tabletop, at least in my mind, I'm always thinking, okay, the way they look is going to in some way correspond to their ability points and how they're distributed, whether it's their muscles or their height or their, the way they dress, things like that, right? And so seeing his physical appearance change so drastically as he leveled up and reallocated his points was very cool. And I don't think I've seen that before. So
I want
Go
to
ahead.
talk about the leveling up as well, but I'm gonna wait. Let's come back to it when he actually unlocks the leveling up.
Sure.
My thoughts on Jinwoo. I really like the character for the first 2 episodes. This is a character. He's clearly an underdog. Clearly, I'm the worst of the worst, and I want to be better. I'm doing this to save my mom or pay her hospital bills. Okay, we have some very classic tropey character setup, but I can get behind this character. After the leveling starts and we goes to that big character change, personality change, he's so flat. He's so, and he even points out like my emotions are dying. who I am.
inside of me.
I'm broken. Which made me think of Overlord, which with all my issues with Overlord, which most of the issues were just I didn't like the power fantasy. Overlord does a really smart thing of, hey, we have this character, he's broken, he doesn't work as a character anymore, so let's focus on everyone around him and how he affects them. Let's start making main characters out of everything he's touching and affecting, both his servants and then the citizens of the world. We have entire arcs focused on random knight, and how Ainz's choices are affecting him. We have the sister character, and we get like one scene of her like, I sure hope he comes to my college guardian parent teacher conference. And it's like more of that. Let's focus on the sister and how her brother changing is affecting her. The people who knew him and how they're like, weird he doesn't have a smile anymore.
Yeah.
We get Jinho, who we'll talk about later. Jinho Yu, his business partner. You have these characters set up. Let's use them as the main characters because this guy is so flat and boring that I don't care. Every time he's fighting, I'm like, yeah, sure hope you don't die. And wonder what level you'll get. And what was going on with that guild thing? I don't even remember. I said again, I was bored mostly because of this character. He becomes a non-character at a point in the story, and then they don't do anything to address it. They're just like, hey, want to see this blank figure get more stats? Want to see me do it again?
Right.
And
Yes.
okay, 12 episodes of that is not entertaining to me. It's just not what I'm looking for in my story. All right. This group goes into the dungeon. He fights one goblin, gets hurt, manages to win, but his knife breaks because he couldn't even afford a good knife. And his friend, Jinhu Lee, she's a B rank healer, but because she has so many self-doubting anxiety issues, she only does low-level dungeons, and so she heals them. They keep going. They find a cave, and they're like, hey, this is going to be a double dungeon. And the leader, who his name is Chayul, he's like, okay, guys, well, we're supposed to report this in to the guild, and they investigate it because they have to rank the dungeons and decide who can go in. And everyone's like, come on, man, this guy, his wife's pregnant, and this could be a major cash payout. These goblins have had hardly any loot. Which loot, by the way, is just like a crystal inside a stone inside their body, apparently.
Got to dig it out.
Yeah, they don't take any like the gear. They
Well,
never
which is
take like each
weird.
other's swords and stuff.
Well, it's weird because they say later that like they will build things out of the monster body parts, but it doesn't show them cutting body parts off and leaving with them. He does later, but they don't. It's weird.
Anyway, they vote on whether to go in the double dungeon. It is Jinwoo's decision by the time the votes come down because it's split, and he decides, well, I am broke, so let's do the double dungeon. They go down this cave, and it opens up into this large round room, auditorium, I guess, with statues lining against the wall.
It's like one of the PoE test rooms where you have to survive a boss battle.
But like everything's stagnant. Like at first they notice there's like no monsters, right? And then like there's all these statues, but then they all kind of look like empty suits of armor with weapons. But then there's like one dude sitting in a throne,
and he's big. He's bigger than all the other statues.
Right.
There's also a tablet with some instructions on it that are very cryptic. One of the guys is like, all right, I'm leaving, and a statue kills him. And then the giant statue dude, the king, shoots laser beams out of his eyes and like kills more hunters. And the door's shut, so they're sealed inside. This is not the type of dungeon any of them are used to seeing. It is Jinwoo who figures out that, according to the tablet, we need to stay down. We have to stay low, basically bowing to the king. And when they do so, the statue actually smiles, gets this really crazy, wicked smile. These first 2 episodes are great. The visual imagery, the build up, the tension, it is fantastic, and the statue is fantastic. And it gets up and starts walking to them.
If
and
you
this
like
one-
these first 2 episodes, go watch Gantz, like the old Gantz anime.
Thank you for that.
Just do it.
80s anime recommendation.
Go do it now.
The more you know. This hunter's like, hey guys, don't worry about this. I know all these religion stuff. Better way to phrase it. I am
one of
tired.
the things we notice about him through all this is that he has really good deductive skills.
Main
That's
character,
probably the bit. Yeah.
Okay, but the religious guy is like, I'll just pray to it because that's the second thing on the tablet. And he starts praying, and Jinwoo's like, yeah, that's not going to work. This is not that kind of god. And the statue just steps on the guy. It's Jinwoo who's like, okay, we have to go hide among the other statues, but one person goes to one of the knights and it smashes them. He's like, no, you got to go to one with an instrument. So, but they find out only one person per instrument statue, and so he gets his friend to one, and then he runs to the other, gets attacked by the giant god statue.
steps on his foot.
Not yet.
Oh, that's
And
the shield.
He jumps and falls, and he lands at one of the knight statues instead, and then gets attacked and has to crawl over to the instrument. And as he's crawling, he gets stepped on and loses a leg. And then that's them passing the second test. And the third test is they have to do a sacrifice. The survivors are like, well, the leader of this group, he should definitely be the guy. And he's like, yeah, you guys are probably right. I will do that. So he goes into the middle, but Jinwoo's like, no, it has to be all of us. So they do all go in. He has to be carried in because he only has one leg. And the statues start moving in towards them. It's basically the opposite of Boo from Super Mario 3. You have to look at. No, it's the same, right? Yeah, you look at them and they won't move.
Yeah.
And if you look away, if you blink, they'll start walking towards you. But the hunters start panicking and start leaving, and they're not able to look at everyone. Even one of the tough guys who was like, yeah, we should definitely go to this double dungeon. He's like, I got a kid. I got to go. He runs. So the leader, again, Chuyul, is like, hey, I'll stay. I got us into this mess. I'll be the one who stays. You, healer, friend, and main character. You guys go. But her legs, the healer's legs, just give out. She's paralyzed with fear. She can't take it. She's been panicking the whole time. And Jinwoo's like, I only have one leg. I can't get her out. You're the only one who can. So I have to be the one who stays behind. He agrees. So everyone's gone but Jinwoo, who then starts getting brutalized, slapped, loses an arm, gets stabbed over and over. Eventually lands on the pedestal and they go to kill him. As they go to kill him, the timer runs out. And as he's sitting there, he's like pissed at everyone who left. He's like, I'm sick of being weak, and you all chose me to be the sacrifice, even though you know I'm the weakest. And I just wish I could do this over again. So all of a sudden he gets quest completed. Do you want to be a player? If you don't, your heart will stop in 0.2 seconds. And he says yes, and that ends our second episode. This is a fantastic setup. Again, I can't say enough that this is good stuff right here. I was into this. I'm like, yeah, I want to go to the next episode, but I got to be done watching for today. It was good build up.
My only complaint was that everybody else got one hit killed, but he got slapped around for like 30 seconds by multiple, and they did not kill him.
Must have a high luck stat.
Must be. The
Okay,
hidden
well,
stat.
Good time as any.
Oh, you went mute.
Good a time as any, but I think that was intentional. I think somebody wants this all to happen. Somebody, he clearly even says, I'm being used by the system, but
That's true.
he's being manipulated. He seems to be aware he's being manipulated and might as well go with the ride until he figures out why. I think they wanted him to live through this. It was But the big question is, would everyone have gotten to be a player if they had stayed?
I want to know that too.
I don't think so. I think this is, but I don't know. They also don't really give any hints to this whole system, other than it being manipulative. That part is very clear. But is it the statue who's behind it?
I still think it ties into that ending. I think that this is all a simulation and he's just synced up. And I don't know if the other people are real and also synced up or if they're, elaborate AI NPCs or something. But
the fact we're getting story bits of characters in a simulation that he can't see, that seems bad. That seems terrible.
Could be quite a simulation.
Some of the quest rewards that he does are literally loot boxes. They are literally randomized loot boxes.
Yeah. Which I kind of like. I mean, as an idea, I like that. It's just weird that it's garbage, like bandages, bingo,
I've used bingo card.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the leveling now, because this is where he gets it. He gets computer screens that pop up in front of him, just flying in the air. I have issue with video game leveling up is a known concept in this world. He recognizes this is just like a video game.
Mm-hmm.
And B, when you're playing RPG, whether tabletop or not, the leveling up is simulating the experience you're getting as a human, or the strength that you build up of swinging your sword over and over again. And we do the stat levels up to simulate that. But now you're simulating the simulating instead of the actual doing. And as soon as I started thinking about that, like, oh, this is dumb.
No, it's not. It's actually really cool. It means that he is not a person. He's an avatar. And the ramifications of that are that the entire thing has to be a game, or there's some magical spell on everything that's causing that to happen, which could be tied to the other mysterious portal.
Is a fun theory.
One of the most frustrating things about this entire season is it's just like, oh, the portals appeared. Well, where did they come from? What other dimension are they connecting to? Why is the magic flooding through these portals and affecting the real world? Is that god that he ran into, is it actually a god or just a really powerful monster? If it is a god, is it the only god of that other world? Can you get to other portals, dungeons through a dungeon? Like if you go into a dungeon, can you get to a different dungeon and come out a different portal? If not, if they're all self-contained, dungeons, are they their own dimensions? Or is it just a simulation and this is just some sort of randomized thing that is happening on a computer system? And the problem is, I don't care about any of it because it didn't make me care about any of it. I like theory crafting. I like thinking of cool stuff, but there's nothing in this anime that connects me enough to make that interesting in my brain because they didn't give me anything.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. To me, it came across very much as the same sort of feeling you get as with member berries, where you're like, oh, he's in an instance dungeon. The magic word,
Yeah,
I recognize the word.
I've done that.
Yeah, exactly. And then you, for a moment, you think about the ramifications that would have on things, but the anime doesn't give you enough to sink your teeth into. So you really can't pursue that. And the same thing with a lot of other stuff, like all the things you said. It makes me think of back when Sword Art Online was new, and back when what's that other one? Dot Hack, right? Where the anime itself wasn't necessarily that great. It may have just been okay, but it was using words, part of a vocabulary that there weren't a ton of anime about that. It was very rare, and so if you were really comfortable with that vocabulary and you knew what it was talking about, you were like, oh man, this one's talking to me. This is so cool. And so I kind of think this anime does the same thing with a more modern game, like microtransactions and loot boxes and instance dungeons. I don't know. Those were things that I haven't heard in other ones before. And so it stroked that member berry response, but didn't give me enough to like go further with it.
Because in reality, if we're going, okay, why are we sending people into these things if we could just ship in a nuke and then set it off and then
Yeah.
the gate closes? I mean,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
you're telling me a B level hunter is stronger than a nuke? Not from what
No.
you've shown me so far.
They do call out that regular weapons just don't seem to hurt these
Regular
magical creatures.
bullets.
It could apply.
Well,
Yeah,
I
let's
guess-
talk about a plasma ball. Anyways,
well, but then you're left wondering what they mean by that. Are we going to just take them at what they state doesn't work, or are we going to state that as conventional warfare doesn't work on them, and only enchanted, awakened monster hunters and their weapons work on them?
I mean, they're in battleships saying we can't do anything. It has to be
Yeah.
magic sword wielders.
If explosives could do it, I'm sure they would use missiles.
Yeah, it's more than just bullets. It's
Yeah. I think that's just their shorthand way of saying this is our only option. You're our only hope, Obi-Wan.
okay, that makes sense.
I want to get back to my complaint. I wasn't done.
Okay.
I agree,
Please.
Jeremy. If your theory is right, then you're right. But I'm going to assume it's wrong.
I really like the way you put that. If you're right, you're right.
If you're right, then you're also right that it's not dumb.
Yeah.
So here's what bugs me. In this world, your ability, your power level is based on your mana. You get a mana test, and if you're S rank, with that mana, you can do superhuman feats. It is not your muscles.
It's not true that it's all mana. Remember, mana was only used for some of his skills. A lot of his other skills didn't use it, and his normal
skills, I'm talking
combat
about-
didn't use it.
Talk about everyone else.
We're talking about regular hunters, not players.
I don't think that all their skills are fueled by mana. Their skills are fueled by the power that they have when they're awakened, like what rank they have, basically. But it's not. I don't think it's a direct correlation to you have this much mana, because you have spellcasters, you have assassins, you've got tanks.
Okay, then what? I was using mana as the name for that power. What do you want to call that power?
It's not established that regular hunters have a resource that they can drain like the player does.
Right.
And also I think that is true because when he does start getting abilities and he starts having to spend mana, that's a new concept for him.
Mm-hmm.
He does mention that he hasn't had to do this before. So I think you're right, Troy. I think like say the B level that he fights later that has the stealth skill. I don't think he has to spend mana to go into stealth. I think he just has that ability because of his awakened state.
Mm-hmm. You can say it's power level then.
I want to just focus on the strength.
Go on.
Just
say it.
Fine, power level.
Yes.
I'm getting lost in Yorga's weeds. I'm too tired for this. All
Come
right.
to the dark side.
He spends points into his strength attribute.
Hmm.
And he gets stronger than he could have if he physically trained.
Mm-hmm.
But his body muscles also change anyway
Yes.
to match that.
Yes.
That's dumb.
No, it's awesome.
No, it
I
isn't.
agree.
Because
It's awesome.
everyone else, if you're an S rank hunter, it just didn't give you a super chiseled body. Because we see a young, slender woman do a kickstand backflip, Spider-Man catch the purse snapper move, despite having a normal athletic body type, even though she's S rank hunter. She's not freaking Goku
Goodness,
over
right
there.
body.
So
We're
him
really like 18.
him pumping up his stats shouldn't have any effect on his physical body because your
The
power
rules
level
change. The rules are different for hunters than they are for players.
Mm-hmm. Although I do agree that like they have the attributes, because I'm pretty sure that the 50% attribute cut was literally cutting the attributes of other characters, the same ones, strength, agility, whatever. Now,
I agree with you, Troy.
Okay,
Well,
here's the thing. You
ahead.
can't do 100 push-ups and raise your strength as a hunter.
right.
Right.
But even though you're raising your physical body's strength.
Right. They're
It
separate.
would not change your hunter power level at all.
That's true.
But wait, so when he puts points into strength, it should be raising his power level strength, but he's actually raising his physical body's muscle strength.
Well, I think you're missing one thing.
No, I'm not. This dumb anime. I'm done.
No, you're missing the daily quests. What does he have to do?
2 weeks. Okay, no, but he got physically taller. Those daily quests.
Okay, I agree with you about getting physically taller.
And his face got chiseler.
Yeah, I know. It's true.
Like,
Although,
no,
you know, if you go and you look at people who do like serious workouts to change their life, their faces do get pretty chiseled.
they do. It does.
But the height, I can't.
I thought, to me, the having the height shows that literally the stat boost he is spending points into are physically changing his body, which is the opposite of what is happening with the hunters and the rules of the hunters.
Yeah, but they're NPCs. He's a player character.
That's only if your theory is correct.
Of course it is.
He wakes up in the hospital. The Hunters Guild. It's like, hey, you're the only survivor. No, there was six survivors. You were the only one still there, though. We couldn't find the double dungeon. You were just in a cave off of the main regular dungeon. We think since you're alive and you shouldn't be, you had a second awakening, which is the first time we find out you can actually raise your level. And they do a mana test, and he's still at E rank, and he sucks. And he's like, they leave, and he's like, where they didn't mention the floating computer screens in front of my face. And then it says, hey, do your daily quest, which, as has been alluded to, is Saitama's 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, run 10K. And he's like,
the funnest part of this episode so far is watching Troy get a headache in real time.
Yes. I just want to keep pushing because it's great.
Keep poking prod.
Yes.
I don't like Power Fantasy. Of course,
Yeah, have you mentioned that yet?
It's like it's hitting all the buttons for you. Power fantasy, power scaling, power levels.
So he sees that he's got a daily quest, but he's going to get a penalty. Is this where he says that?
Yeah, and then he doesn't care about it, and then the penalty expires, and he gets sucked into a desert world dimension where giant sandworm monsters start chasing him for the next 4 hours. And he
4 hours.
4 hours running on sand from monsters that are way higher level than him.
While
And
in the hospital.
Just got healed from the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Well, technically he was missing a leg, and then the dungeon disappeared, and then he had a leg.
Yeah, yep. He's fully regenerated.
I don't know why he was asleep for 3 days or why he's even still in the hospital, other than observation. Because as we learn later, part of the enchantment that came with becoming a player is basically fixed him. He's healed up. He has no reason to be in the hospital.
Which then begs the question, if we're talking about video game logic, does he have respawns? If he dies,
we don't know
really
yet.
die?
I'm curious.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, what makes me think he does is the fact that in the last quest it says survive as long as possible, and he never actually dies, but he gets close to dying. And I was thinking, okay, this fully intends for you to die.
Right? Yeah, I thought too.
Mm-hmm.
He survives, and then from that point on, he starts doing his daily quest. And every day
sounds so sad.
He survives, and the anime's still going.
Dang it!
I really thought it was only 2 episodes.
I was still hanging in there at this point because he
fair.
still has his old voice, mostly the old personality.
Yeah.
Anyway, he starts doing the daily quest and getting attribute points from them, which he's putting all into his strength. Yep. And then the healer girl, she comes to see him while he's working out, and he gets a loot box, and in it is an instant dungeon key.
And she never actually sees him. Like, she sees him through a window, but then
and she's like, "Oh my god!"
Never actually visiting him.
Thought he had only one leg, but apparently, it's also not impossible. At least, no one's like, it's impossible your leg came back. Everyone's like, oh, you must have had like a really good healer. Mm-hmm. So,
but she is B rank. She's B rank. I'm so frustrated with this character and what they did with her.
Yeah, especially the conclusion where she just is like, "Okay, I'm gonna leave now." It's like, what?
I give up.
Yep.
Instant dungeon key. He sneaks out of the hospital to use it, and then he realizes he's instantly trapped inside, totally unprepared. And 3 goblins attack him, and he manages to barely kill them. And then a wolf attacks him. Then he fights the wolf, and then more wolves come. And he remembers, oh, I have an inventory, so I can just pull items out of my butt.
Yeah. Okay, so I started to have an issue with this here because as soon as he defeated the 3 goblins, this wolf shows up. It didn't attack him while he was fighting the goblins, but it came to him after the goblins died. Then when he defeated that, 3 show up. They waited, and then they showed up. And then a whole freaking pack shows up. And I'm just going, okay, is that just going to be the formula of this entire anime? Rinse and repeat is, the next difficult encounter is going to hit you, is going to come to you. Someone's basically feeding you what you need to speed level.
Have you seen anime before?
It's if you're going to call it solo leveling, then you need to be careful because you could die if you're solo. You have no healer. Was that?
Have you played Genshin Impact?
Actually, I sampled it just a little. But I mean, he has no party. He's got no healer. I've played games where you're like, this is a hardcore version, hardcore mode. You don't take chances. This guy risks everything all the time, and it's insane that he continues to survive.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to go into this dungeon where most people would be like, I'm going to level up like 20 more times before I even think about stepping my foot into unknown random thing I have nothing idea about.
Like if you used his methodology in PoE hardcore, Jason, how long do you think you'd last? It's an S tier dungeon. I'm going to do it.
Well, he'd probably lose a couple frames from lag and then just dead when you came back from lag.
Exactly.
The thing that frustrates me is I feel like they did I have a teleportation stone. Oh, I accidentally dropped it.
Twice.
They pull that move way too many times.
Twice. And in this one, he's like, oh, I don't have it. I have no way out. And then he gets it later. He's like, oh, I'll just keep going. It's fine.
Yeah.
What could be worse?
He has the one guy's sword, the leader from his last mission's sword. He had picked it up and it went into his inventory. So he uses that to fight the wolves. And he notices he's leveling. He goes up to level 2, which is a much bigger stat increase than the daily quest. And he also gets access to a shop, but only to sell stuff. And then he just starts fighting and killing. He goes all the way to level 15. Wow. That's a lot.
That's what I mean. He's speed leveling as a solo player who's never played the game before.
Then
I guess that's not truly fair. He's been in the dungeons before, but
he gets the teleportation stone. He's like, I'm gonna go look at the boss, and he goes to fight the boss, and there's a giant snake in the subway, and it attacks him, and he loses his sword. No, the sword breaks. I think maybe it already broke. I don't know. It doesn't matter. And then he does a roadhouse, and he tears the snake's throat out. Shh, roadhouse.
So this irritated me so much. He doesn't have enough strength to force the hilt of this thing into the armor at high speed. This thing's hitting him. So if he's got enough, but then he just grabs it and crushes it.
Yeah, physics
How does that
work
make
that way?
Yeah, no, breaking their own rules constantly to create tension was just irritating.
Yeah, rule of cool, man.
Nothing wrong with rule of cool, Jeremy.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot wrong with it.
There's a lot wrong with it.
Worst idea ever.
Okay. This also fits with fan service. It depends what kind of story you're telling. Solo level is taking itself way too seriously. That if it added in fan service and doing the rule of cool, it feels disingenuous. Whereas Danmachi is being silly and adding fan service into its story, so it's fine. It fits in with that.
Okay,
I can agree with that.
to instantly make this a little better, he doesn't think, oh, I should spend my stat points from a couple of the levels that I got fighting the wolves. He goes into this thing, he's outmatched, he can't get his hilt through. He gets behind a pillar and he's like, what can I do? And he's looking through his inventory, he knows he hasn't spent some skills. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna just dump those into strength, see what happens. Goes, crushes it, finds out he's super strong now. That would have been cool.
That could have been interesting. It at least
That
would have
would've done-
justified why he failed the first time and succeeded the second.
And also it would establish that he doesn't quite understand what's going on, and when he realizes that stat points matter, this would give it weight to where he spends his stat points. But no, we
All-
need to do rule of cool.
All I'm saying is, if your series is Godzilla and King Kong, and you give King Kong a giant robot glove to punch people with, that's fine. But if you try to do something like that in Cloverfield, which is being very serious in its tone and trying to take a very dark approach to a kaiju attack, it doesn't work. It's just all about, it's got to fit the tone.
Imagine
Rule of cool is fine.
Imagine the Cloverfield monster coming around a corner and Godzilla with both feet flying through the air.
Okay, I take it back. I want that now.
I want that movie.
He gets a dagger for his trouble. It's a snake dagger.
With
Made-
drain and paralysis.
Mhm.
And poison? Isn't it also poison?
That's what the poison does.
Mhm.
Cool.
I still am not clear on what the drain does. Like, I would have assumed drain is like lifesteal, but I guess maybe it's just slow loss of life.
Could be either life drain or a stamina drain.
Could be stamina.
Things I didn't think about for a half a second. So I watched this. I was like, yeah, whatever. You got a knife. Cool. Please go forward. He goes outside. There's been a dungeon break. His friend is there. As he's walking by, they're fighting a giant stone golem monster, and he's like,
I hate this scene.
I'll help. He takes that broken sword
Yeah.
and he throws it, and it hits it and breaks its magical shield, so they're able to kill it. And they were like about to all die. They were like, no, nothing we do works. It's so powerful. He just, from the back of the crowd, whoop.
But I'm so angsty that I'm not gonna stick around.
Yep,
'cause
walks
I'm
away.
Mysterious.
Yep.
Ugh.
So he does decide, I gotta keep this a secret. I don't want, people will want to know why. I'll get all this attention.
I might get famous and people might
Right.
like me more. Oh
But
no.
the whole
Yeah.
point of being a hunter is becoming rich and famous. It's like signing up
Right.
to be a movie star and being like, oh, but I don't want people to, don't put me in the credits. I don't want people to know who
Right?
I am. So
Yep.
what are you
Keep my
guys'
secret.
thoughts on the whole, I'm keeping this a secret and being
It's so angsty. I hate it.
I'm torn because this is new, and the possibility that they'll like do experiments on him or something exists to try and reproduce it or to try and figure out what makes him different. But at the same time, he's gonna just keep leveling up. Like, there's no reason to think that there's a ceiling to this. So no matter what they do,
That was actually
eventually
my first thought.
is like what the ceiling is.
Like, okay, but what's your max level?
Well,
Every
he
video game, well, not every video game, but most video games have a max level.
That's true. He's got to just do the next quest to unlock the expansion, and
he gets like 5 levels a boss. It's
it's insane.
Yeah,
but he's
and
fighting
also,
things that are way too big for him.
but that's the thing. It's like the leveling becomes not just inconsequential, but it becomes stagnant and boring. It's like it doesn't mean anything anymore.
It kind of became annoying to me, just because I would see it too frequently. Like, it seems like it's too easy for him to level, and in a game where you level that quickly, it's kind of unsatisfying.
I can't wait till we talk about getting the necromancer job.
Oh God, I hate that.
And then
I'm so
suddenly
pissed off.
he just gets the max evolution of it. It was like, Oh, so we're not gonna take any time to explore this or have fun with it.
Nope.
Develop.
I was complaining to Tanya about that one after the episode.
Yeah. All right.
And again today.
Okay. After that, oh yeah. So now we have the new taller play girl cover model version of Jinwoo,
Wow.
where a nurse is like, "Hey, how you doing?
That's right, she was. I
I
forgot
have your
about that.
phone number." He's like, "I guess they just need to tell me my lab results."
Yeah.
Whatever. He's discharged. He goes home. He spends his skill points. He's told he needs to pay the rent. So he goes on a job. And this is a group of hunters that frequently goes together, and they hire a few extra people just to fill out the roster because you have to have a certain number to go into these dungeons. And they're like, "Hey, we just do contract, but you don't have to do anything. You just follow along. You get paid." And he meets on another contract employee of this group, who's Jinho Yu. The only other character who was speaking lines for more than 3 episodes. Guys, thoughts on Jinho Yu? The closest thing to a best friend this anime can conjure.
Yep. Boring? How's that?
Yeah.
Like younger son who clearly has the desire to prove himself and take over his father's company, but is inexperienced and naive and immediately outmatched by everybody around him, and he's just there to make the main character look better. It seems like, and to give him access to funds and opportunity that he wouldn't have by himself. It doesn't seem like there's much more thought than that put into him.
He is a means to an end for the story, and I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
If he's supposed to be the son of a very successful businessman, but he has some power level, but he can't seem to get anything done on his own. It would have made much more sense if he was hyper intelligent, or at least more than average intelligent, and maybe a really savvy business sense from his dad. And he made shrewd decisions and positioned himself and the people around him to do certain things, kind of played chess master almost. That would have been an interesting story, make it more compelling for why Jinwoo would join him instead of just using him for his own means.
Mm-hmm.
And also would make him more of a threat to his brother and to the rest of the guilds. They kind of try to do that, but he seems to be a bumbling fool that just has pie in the sky aspirations. I didn't like him.
Yeah, it's difficult when you create a character that is supposed to excel at everything and be the best of everything for any other character to be good at anything, because then they might shine brighter than your bright star that has to be this important character. So
Power fantasies are boring.
see, that's why I like my selective power fantasy that I like is when it is in one aspect or it has severe consequences to use or gain,
Like
or
min
something.
maxing kind of one aspect.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, so and I know Troy's going to hate me for this, to compare
already.
this to compare this to, say, Overlord, I think is a misstep and also not related. And there's a couple reasons. One, Ainz is not playing against the other characters in a power game. He's playing against the other characters within the world from a governmental or from a strategic level. So, like, when he gets in fights, we already know the outcome because he's so super powerful. But what's interesting is, what are his choices going to force the other factions and also the other leaders to do? We get none of that here.
All right. However, I 100% agree. But back in season 1, when we did Overlord season 1, that hadn't really been started yet. They were just getting to that. And my big issue with Overlord was that it was mostly focused on Irons, and it was kind of boring. Season 2 and beyond, like just as you said, as the dominoes fall and we see that it affecting people and how it's so much better.
In
And I
season
have
1,
wondered if this is the same thing, and this is set up for that.
Okay, but at least with season 1 of Overlord, not only did we get establishing shots of his power versus this new world he was in, we also got to see him kind of take a turn from what his human moral self was to the near bad guy that he turns into, which I found fascinating. There is no moral quandary or any sort. This main character has no personality.
I think that's one of the major things that is different between him and Ainz. Ainz has his chibi form.
And Albedo.
That's right. Yes.
Oh my god. It's like the third time you've done the 15-year-old be like booby joke. 40-year-old men, yes, we do like boobies. It's fine. Let's move on.
But yeah, I think that Ainz has a funny side. He's got a little, silliness, and it gives him
But
more personality. But this guy doesn't. This guy is blank.
Yeah.
He takes himself too seriously.
I saw this meme the other day. I think it was Reddit. But it's the boardroom meme, right? Where the CEO is like, give me suggestions. Everyone says smart things, and then no, everyone says dumb things, and the smart person he throws out the window. But Ian says he just said his plan, and it's like all the different generals are like, brilliant, awesome, and then it's the guy with the glasses, and he's like, clearly you guys aren't getting the full depth of the plan. Instead of throwing him out the window, he puts him at the head of the table and says, please explain to everyone the full depth of the plan, just so Ainz can get a better plan.
Yep.
So yes.
Yep.
I agree. I forgot what we're talking about. I got distracted by my own meme.
Let's move on to the next episode.
Yep.
Let's take this opportunity to fast forward a little.
Ants. They fight ants, which I thought was interesting. They end up in an ant farm, and we did kind of get some Jinwoo's like, oh, I sense the bad guys. I know where they're coming from. But this party is very capable. They're wiping them out. They go all the way, and they find this giant cache of mana crystals, which aren't worth as much as the stones inside of the monsters, but in this volume, major payday for them. They're very excited.
But if they kill the boss, oh god.
Also pointed out that Jinwoo deserves a cut of this based on his contract. There is a giant spider in the room, the boss of the dungeon, and it's sleeping. And if they kill the boss, the dungeon will close, so they want to excavate these crystals before the boss wakes up. And they're like, hey guys, we're going to go get some mining gear. You two contract guys who are super weak, just stay here. And they're like, with the boss? Oh, again, it'll be fine. It's sleepy. And then they leave and then immediately blast the cavern closed, shaking it and waking up the boss. These guys do this. They bring people and then murder them so that they can
Who
get
could
paid.
have seen that coming?
Well, apparently Jinwoo did, but there's also a terrible plan. It's just like it doesn't make really any sense. Why even put in a contract that will give you a split of what we find if you could keep him alive and not pay him and the whole we'll wake up the boss and then it'll kill them and then maybe it'll go back to sleep, and if it doesn't,
then we'll kill it. And what did we gain for that?
We gain nothing.
Yeah.
I think the least amount of payout they were talking about is, well, we'll go in, kill the boss. It will take
the rich guys,
the rich kids'
true.
gear, and we can sell that.
Was worth. But they could have just done that. They had a million opportunities to murder him on the way down. They could have already had the armor.
Well, I'm pretty sure that they were waiting because, use your resources to fight the boss and then kill him. So they probably would have just taken the boss on and then killed him had there not been a mana crystal field. I think they always intended to kill him.
Yeah, yeah. They've done this multiple times. They constantly sign people to do contracts and then find a reason to kill him. I just feel like it was a really big stretch on why they wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
It feels. But again, they could. They had him 5 minutes into the fight.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be that helpful against the boss anyway. He's a weak T rank who's never fought. It's not like you're getting anything by keeping him alive, other than maybe there'll be a spider who's asleep, but then we'll wake it up and hopefully it'll go back to sleep again.
Yep.
And it's fine. It doesn't matter.
Is it though?
Hey, guess what? Guess what? Jin Woo, he's going to fight the spider all by himself. And he does. And he's he had his butt kicked. Don't worry, he's acquired dash all of a sudden. Somehow. I don't even remember why he gets dash, but he gets dash now. Also, whenever he levels up, he gets the option of full recovery, and here he just like uses one he hadn't touched yet.
Yeah. He finishes daily quest, but he didn't get a chance to click through the menus.
Okay. That seems broken and overpowered.
And it's used that way quite a bit.
Yeah.
He using the dash and then stabbing the creature in the eye because everything is too hard for him to ever penetrate, but he goes for the eye stab like 3 different times on bosses. Yeah. Like I'm just eye. Oh, that works somehow. Crazy.
Yeah.
Kills the spider. The bad men come back and they're like, oh, I guess this rookie guy in the armor is better than we thought because he must have been the one who killed him. Hey, you kill the low rank E and we won't make a fuss about this. And he's like, well, no, I just watched this guy murder a giant spider. I'm not going to do that. Also, I'm a good person, probably, so also not going to do that. Jinwoo gets a quest that he now has to kill these 6 bad guys. And again,
it's weird because he assumes it means kill. It says defeat. He never tries to knock them out, restrain them, or anything lethal. He just kills them. But I think he assumes
it's him or them because the penalty for not defeating them was stopping his heart.
Absolutely, yeah. But the syntax, like it's there, semantics, but I wonder if there's something to that. Like if it's a karma system, if it's checking him, if it's why did he get Necromancer later? You know?
Yeah. I thought, oh, maybe this is Death Note. I don't know if you guys have watched Death Note, but Death Note starts with the main character is like this good, righteous guy, and he gets the Death Note, and then the whole series is how he turns into a raging evil psychopath, sociopath. And I was like, oh, maybe that's what this is that the system has manipulated him into our villain. Maybe he's really the villain of the story, which would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But it never comes up again. I thought for sure, like eventually, like there was someone who saw his secret or something. Yeah. When he fights the assassin guy, I thought it was gonna be like, and now kill the witnesses.
Yes.
And I was like, ooh, that's gonna be interesting, but no, it's just defend yourself. And it's clear again. He points out the system is protecting me. It sends the threat and it's forcing me to protect myself, but it wants my success. The system is not here to kill him or challenge him. It is built to help him succeed. Someone is making him strong on purpose.
He even says you guys should have hid your bloodlust.
Yeah,
because then the system would have activated. He kills them all. One guy's even like, you don't know who my brother's kill. He's dead. Cuts off their heads, mostly. Some poison. Some die from poison.
This is where I think season 1 should have ended. I think that it should have built up to this point. It would have had lots of time to explore the world, to explore other characters, to go in depth with things. This would have been a nice crescendo to end on. He's beating people who are sea level, right? So it would put him at sea level or above. It would have been, I think it would have been so much better if it went slower.
Imagine if the episode for the season ender ended with knife like that, and then you see the head hit the ground, and then just cut to black.
Because then you're like, is he evil now?
Right?
Also, then it would be over, and I could be like done.
It still would have been 12 episodes.
Oh. Anyway, you know what I really think they should have done? You know the head of the Hunters Commission of the government, the guy with all the scars, gray hair, that should be his dad. Then that gives him an internal link to all the business stuff that's going on.
That would be interesting.
And even though that's just Death Note again, because his dad was the head chief of police hunting.
You just like Death Note.
Yeah, it's like everyone likes Death Note. That's amazing. All right. Kills the spider, kills the hunters. He gets the skill Murderous Intent.
I do like how he's basically getting hidden skills, like contextually available skills.
He's stealing skills.
He's also stealing them, yeah.
He's a blue mage. He brings home dinner and then tries to have a beer, and the system's like, no, I actually detox you and regenerate you if you ever drink poison. That's not going to come in handy soon. Jinho calls him and he's like, hey man, if we do 19 more raids together, I can form the guild my dad wants to form. I can take it over and prove to him I can lead it. And then you'll get all the experience that you want because you said you wanted to do that. So why don't you do that with me?
Because in order to run it, you have to have an S rank. Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't.
In order to have a guild.
Jinho. That's what I forgot. Yeah. Jinho's boring.
Yep.
They keep
Moving
cutting
on.
this. They keep cutting the scenes of like him in. This is a rough one, guys. What's the TV show with the rich family? Succession. He's like in his own plot of Succession, and we keep getting glimpses of it, and I'm like, I don't care. This has nothing to do with Jinwoo or the solo leveling or why he sees computer screens or the ending clips of him running around like a mental facility that's on fire, but he runs into his own bedroom.
There's too many plot threads and there's too many characters, so none of them get enough screen time. None of them get into fleshed out, and so it's just all a bunch of boring stuff that gets in the way of the main story, and the main story is boring.
I don't even know if there's too many characters. Like, it doesn't feel like they're real characters. Like, they just get touched.
They're NPCs.
Exactly, yes. They just get touched. I think it's because Jinwoo gets so much attention, like he's solo star, that there is no room for anyone else.
Which
It is
fine.
called solo leveling.
Yeah.
No, but that's fine. Introduce them as he encounters them. Introduce the world as he experiences it. Why are you telling me about this battle on the island that Jinwoo knows nothing about? He is who we are attached to as the audience. If he doesn't know, I don't care. I mean,
I think they're trying to do the thing you always see in novels where you get perspectives from different characters, but you need different characters for that. You know, like you
need to build those characters.
Yeah, they have relatively similar weight when you're going to do that and shift perspectives like that. But they try to do it without having anchor points elsewhere.
Think about like Undead Unluck. We don't get to know about the Union until Andy and Fuko join the Union and learn about the Union. We do it with the characters. They were already there. They were already operating. They exist in the world, but we learn about it with the main characters. And then it's like, oh, the world got bigger and awesomer. This is like, no, it's already huge. Don't worry about it. All these things. And it's like, but none of this matters. You could also tell me about the guy serving fries at McDonald's down the street who's from an isekai world where he was a demon lord. But if it doesn't tie to this, I don't need to know about that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say McDonald worker, but once I did, I got caught up. Sorry.
That was a better anime, too.
Yeah.
Anyway, this guy, he offered 30 billion oolongs. I don't know the currency of South Korea. Sorry.
Monies.
Monies. And he's like, no, I don't want to. And then Jinho's like, oh, well, what about your secret? And I'm like, oh, is there going to be like some blackmail? No, don't worry about it. It's not going to come up. It's not a big deal. I thought Death Note, like, oh, here we go. Like, he's going to have to do something dark. And no, it's fine. Him and his sister go exercising, and he realizes that if he runs more than his daily goal, it tracks. And so he does all of his exercises to the maximum until it stops tracking, which unlocks a secret reward, a super loot box. And you can get a cursed loot box or a blessed loot box. And he does the blessed one, which gives him a key to another instant dungeon called the Demon's Castle. And in the Demon's Castle is the elixir of life, which can cure any illness. And he happens to have a mom who's super ill and in the hospital.
Mommy. Hey, that's Stewie. That's an old reference, and it's great.
Oh, you did it wrong, but it's fine.
It's me. What do you expect?
Only because anytime my kids start yelling for mom, I do this. Mom,
Yeah,
mama,
I
mama.
do.
You have to. You have to. You have to burn your kids. So another intriguing plot point that this is clearly built just to make him want this.
Yeah.
Like it shows up right when he's like, what's going on with this leveling? And I'm being used by the system. And here's the exact thing I want as a person dangled in front of me. And I'm like, oh, so this isn't like just a random system. Someone is specifically tailored this for him.
Yep. Because he's just an avatar. He's not really there. These people aren't real. There's someone monitoring him.
He's not 10 feet tall and blue. I don't get it. How is he an avatar?
Ha!
I'm just kidding. I know avatars control all 4 elements. Anyway.
Oh, dad jokes after dad jokes.
You just did a Stewie meme. Come on.
Right?
He goes straight into it. And it's like an S-rank dungeon, and he fights Cerebus, who kicks his butt all over the place. He's literally chugging potions. He reminded me of being in Skyrim, where you're just eating all the cheeses. Yeah. Come on, heal enough. I gotta survive. He finally manages to take it out. This is the first time we're introduced that he has a health bar, too. And the stamina? Is this the first time we meet the stamina?
Yeah, he has
gauge?
a fatigue gauge. Yeah.
Fatigue gauge and a health bar, which we see literally dropping as he's taking attacks. Which would make me mad. I don't know if that's a fair thing. If I take 100 damage of non-fatal damage, I still die. Like, what if a goblin could just like tap him and do just 1 damage, but does it 10,000 times? Would he die from that? According to the rules of the system. But they're not cuts. They're just taps.
1,000 taps.
So I would be upset about having an HP bar, personally.
What if you could refill it with really cheap, simple concoctions, like health potions?
What if they taste bad, though? You'd be like,
that's true.
So bad.
And you have to keep it down.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, sugar-free monsters.
Ugh.
Hey, guess how he beats it, though?
He
stabs it in the eye.
More like he reaches down into his emotions, and his emotions make him stronger.
Yeah, that happens more than once, and it's really annoying.
So,
like, hey, I glow blue, and I'm really upset. So now I'm gonna do turbo damage and speed.
He defeats the Cerebus and gets the recipe for the elixir of life, but the 3 ingredients are still inside the demon's castle. But he's like, "There's no way I can do this yet, so I'm going to have to solo level." Bam, bam, bam.
Name drop.
So because he needs just to get experience, he calls Jinho. It's like, yeah, well, let's do your thing, but also only you and me ever go into the dungeons. He's like, that's insane. He's like, I don't care. So they are going to do that. Then he gets a call to join a C rank dungeon, and so does basically all the survivors of the double dungeon. All get the call to join this, and they all do except for one. They said 5 of the 6 survivors showed up.
And the worst plot point shows up. Just,
Uh,
I did not understand why this had to be a thing.
Yeah, that's right. Along with the party, they're like, "Hey, we have 3 prisoners. So if you're
It's
a
gonna
hunter,
go well.
if you're a psychopathic murderer but are also a hunter, you get to go and earn yourself parole by going into dungeons." And these,
My favorite part about this was he was like, "Oh, and they're all here on good behavior," but then they all have these like creepy serial killer smiles, like, "Ugh, I finally get the cuffs off. Who am I going to murder today?" And it's like, okay, yeah, these are the guys I would expect to see from a good performance program from a prison. Great.
all right. But in the anime's defense, to be fair, did you see where they went? Did you see where they ended up going with it coming? Because I didn't. I thought like, oh, for sure.
Oh yeah, no,
I
was
going to
going.
be the problem, but they're not.
No, I thought one of two things: either they're going to be a problem, or are they just human shields?
Yeah. No, I didn't see them being butchered.
Because the last time I saw prisoners in an anime was Chainsaw Man, and what they did to those prisoners was not great.
Oh yeah. Okay, so yeah, they are butchered. So they split up into 3 groups, and Jinwoo's like, "Yeah, I'm going to the boss. I know where it is, so I'm just gonna. I can sense it now. So everyone, I'm just taking the people I
His
like with me."
perception's really high.
Yeah. He's just got on the line in your compass. Like, it just goes to the mission objective.
It's the little red dot on his compass.
Yeah.
The Hunter Guild agent that is escorting the 3 prisoners, he's actually been paid to assassinate them. But it turns out he also just loves murder. And one thing you gotta understand about dungeons is they work just like Las Vegas.
I know, they even use the same cast.
What happens in the dungeon stays in the dungeon. Get married in the dungeon? Only married in the dungeon. Elvis performs in the dungeon sometimes. Just like Vegas. Anyway, this assassin guy.
This storyline. It happens in so many anime. Oh, we're fighting beasts from beyond the beyond, but the worst monsters are humans.
Yep. It's right up there with the friends we made all along. Right?
It's just so overused. I'm tired of it. It's like we've got these portals to other dimensions, but people are the real problem. Shut up.
Yep.
People are the real. No, I'm kidding. He kills the 3 prisoners, and then the other group that Jinwoo's not in ends up finding them because the 2 tunnels connected. And so the assassin's like, "Well, here I go, kill it again." It kills them, and then the guy who had run away from the double dungeon, as he's dying, is telling Jinwoo, "I'm sorry, I was gonna apologize, but now that I'm dying, it seems."
And who didn't see this coming when they showed the 3 minutes of his family, him with his family?
Yeah,
he's gonna do it.
They death flagged him really hard.
Yep.
"I'm really worried about you. Maybe you should quit." "Yeah, just one more. Let me hold my little girl and tell her how strong I am and will never die." Oh, you're gonna die.
You are so dead.
Jinwoo shows up, like I said, and again the assassin's like, "Well, here I go killing some more." But Jinwoo stops him, and they're the same class, basically, is what they're saying. Like they're
both assassins, I guess.
Assassin dagger users. And this guy, he has stealth. He can turn invisible. And Jinwoo uses his new skill for murdering the other 6 guys, which makes the stealth guy freeze, and then he's able to stab him. And now he gets stealth. And that guy's like, "You're crazy. What's going on with you?" And he's like, "Well, I can solo level." He's like, "Oh, that's the name of this anime. That's crazy."
As he's dying, that's the name of the anime.
I thought I was a main character. I was just one episode villain. Yeah, so now he has stealth. They go outside, and then the guild's like, "Oh, what happened in there? Can't believe that guy who we knew was dirty and probably a killer tried to kill you guys. That's crazy." They do say that. They're like, "Oh yeah, he definitely had issues." I can't.
Like,
No way
not-
surprised he's a psychopathic killer.
Yeah, it's not, hey, someone from your organization was on a murder spree. Like, no way. We background checked him and I
Yeah.
knew him forever. No, it's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that checks
case
out.
closed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I just didn't watch him as closely as I should have.
Right.
What kind of people are you hiring?
Yeah.
The old leader guy with one arm from the double dungeon, he takes the credit for beating him, and he did have a cool fight. I was actually upset while he was fighting him because his whole thing is like, I'm a mage, but in real life I do sword training, and so he was fighting him with a sword, and I was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
That they're like finding a way to bend the rules of the system with your real world experiences. That would be a really interesting anime.
buff from the
Never mind.
Yeah. Now that we've given you that taste, we're moving on.
Moving on. So yeah, he takes credit for it. But don't worry, this guy's also like, hey, remember that guy who you probably didn't kill but did die? He's gonna come to you for revenge for killing him, even though we don't think you killed him. He's just gonna see your name on the report and say, yeah, the brother of the leader of the bad guys from the last.
This is a season 3 story point.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that this whole fight with this guy should have been the end of season 2. Like, you could have worked your way through more storytelling, had the peak in the middle where he goes and messes with Cerberus, and then you have the rest of this leads up to this fight. End of season 2, you deal with this. He's now beating a class B, a tier B. So he's now in, low tier A, maybe.
He takes or leaves the healer girl's like, hey, you promised to take me to dinner, and then the episode called, what is this, a picnic? And then they're standing in a park and they don't go to dinner, and she's like, oh, by the way, I quit now, have fun solo leveling.
Yes.
and
then she pulls a microphone out of her purse and then just drops it.
Just drops it.
We're fixing this anime one episode at a time, guys. You had already mentioned, really frustrating what they do with this character who like was going through a character arc and building towards something, and then is like, no, actually my mom's right, I am worthless, I'm gonna go work in the bakery, I guess.
Yep.
We meet the strike team that Jinhu has hired. Basically, they hired a bunch of guys to just stand around outside the dungeon so they can have the quota of how many.
And his sister's friend from school, which there was no reason to have this character inserted in here.
Yep.
Another one who got like in the first couple episodes, like intro scenes of like, hey, here's this high school girl in a hoodie who knows the sister of the main character, and this is the whole build up to of, oh, so I don't get to go in, and don't call me a high schooler. I'm a hunter.
Yeah, because she was like, oh, I could do better than he can do. I could accomplish more. And then the big culmination of her character arc so far is, okay, she's gonna lean on a tree and wait by the entrance
because she's mysterious.
Yeah, and she'll blush when she looks at him now because he's tall and hot. And defeating the entire dungeon by himself.
He is really good looking.
Right?
You can do multiple storylines. You just need to have multiple main characters, and you didn't. You have just one main character, and then tried to do a Game of Thrones, let's talk about everybody. But this isn't Game of Thrones. There's not 10 storylines going on. There's one storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 12 episodes of 20 minutes apiece. You don't have time.
Yeah.
We're just beating a dead horse, but I was trying to think of anime that also do like wide worlds, lots of characters, lots of different storylines that are twisting around each other. But then I remembered that this isn't really doing that anyway, so fine. They beat dungeons really fast. So the Jinho just mines them while Jinwoo grinds his XP. And then the Tiger Guild they're all pissed off because they can't get any low-ranking dungeons to train rookies in. So they go scouting, and they realize, oh, that Jinwoo guy from the double dungeon and that other thing and that other thing is the one behind this. He's like, I bet he reawakened.
The guy who's trying to stay under the radar.
Yeah.
This guy's name is Han. This is so weird. So he comes up with like, I'm gonna scout this guy. I'm gonna get him onto our team. I'll bet he is like A or B because he's clearly way more stronger than the E he used to be. And he has a meeting with them, and Jinwoo's like, "Don't talk to me. I hate you. You can't afford me."
Jinwoo is a jerk.
He goes to
By the way, I'm
stealth
gonna
and
cut your
slices
face.
his cheek. Yeah. Okay. And then cons him like, hey, okay, I'll sell you these dungeons, and apparently they were just going to get rid of them anyway, so it doesn't matter. It
Are
just
we
forces
the
the guy to,
baddies?
Right?
which I would be fine with if they would just commit to it. If you want to do Death Note, do Death Note. Death Note's great. Commit. Anyway.
And then after all of that, like, underhandedness, like, all of a sudden he sits down and he's like all cordial with them again. It's like, what is happening?
Yes, that I think is probably the part that weirded me out the most. Is it? You can't just sit back down and be fine. But also when the guy gets the message from him after spending all that money and then seeing that there were plenty of other C ones that were available for purchase for like 70 instead of the 300 that he bought them for.
Right.
And he gets a message from Jinwoo saying, that now we're even because you talked to me, basically.
Yeah. Hey, I want to offer you a job. You son of a...
Exactly.
I'm going to make your life hell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, I want to offer you a job. I'm going to blow up your car.
Right. Give me your headquarters for the entire White Tigers. It's just ridiculous.
Jinwoo has received a new quest to change his job level, but there's no time on it, so he drives out to the woods and he starts this quest, which is fighting a bunch of enemies who are similar to people he's fought in the past.
I hate this. If you're going to have a job change, you need to have a current job.
It should be called a job acquisition quest. It might be a translation error.
No, he's an assassin. He's a wolf assassin.
Oh, he is a wolf. No, his job is listed as empty. That is his title. I checked the stat screen. I don't know why. I paused the dang freaking anime and read title is wolf assassin, whatever it is, and the job was empty. Because I remember seeing the job empty and being like, oh, that's gonna be like a whole thing we're gonna have to deal with, isn't it?
Yeah, but so my thoughts are that he was in a tutorial or something leading up until he got a title, which the title then placed him into a job that his actions selected.
The job on the screen was empty.
Okay, I got to look it up because there's no way that they would have him do a job
does it
change
matter,
if he didn't have one.
Really?
I mean, it does matter.
That's 100% what they did.
No, that
100%.
doesn't make sense. No.
No.
Oh, that's terrible. Like, that makes it even worse.
Maybe in Korean, the word change and acquire is basically the same thing.
Oh.
I'm going to keep going.
Okay.
Well,
Please.
I mean, actually, I need you to talk about this because he fights his way to a throne room where there's the Red Knight Ignis, who's waiting for a king to return. They gave this guy like a whole fantasy plot backstory and I'm like, is this a real world or I thought there was a fake computer dimension that he's in right now? Why does the enemy suddenly have a backstory we need to care about? But he does, and he's
Games
super
have lore.
This
Games
isn't a
have
game. This is a training simulation. This is like giving the crash test to me a name, which we did in the 80s. That's something we did do in the 80s. Yeah. He fights Ignis. It's a really cool fight. Ignis can summon his sword. He has basically telekinesis, and also At one point, Jinwoo throws down his weapons, is like, "Let's do fisticuffs," and the knight's like, "Okay," and it beats the crap out of Jinwoo. But your guys' thoughts on this battle?
Battle was beautiful, and really great beats throughout the fight. He puts his dagger away because he's like, "Fine, I'll use my raw strength," and he's like, "Okay." He sticks his sword in the ground. He's like, "Let's go." I liked how outclassed Jinwoo was by this character, but and I did. It felt good, like his win. Like it felt like he really had to grind through like everything that he's learned up to this point. Might be the best part.
Hold on,
of
Jeremy.
the
Jeremy
entire
looks
season.
very smug right now. He must have learned something.
No. There's nothing. The only thing I can find on the wiki is talking about where he is right now. It doesn't talk about what he has when he starts.
All
So-
right, I guess you just have resting smug face.
Yes, I do.
That's the first I've heard of that, but I'm stealing
I
that.
like it.
Do you have any thoughts on the Ignis fight?
Yes, I absolutely love the same things Jason was pointing out about like him dropping the sword. I also loved how when Jinwoo finally got a kick off on him and got him in the side of the head, Ignis just kind of cocked his head back and then like did some kind of howl or something. And then just went turbo on him, like grabbed him, smashed his face into the wall, drug him across. Beautiful. Really, really cool. I did not like how he won.
I was about to ask. I had a feeling that was coming.
I did not like how he won because he effectively lost. He did not use murderous intent to knock Igris's stats down by 50%, which is beyond me why he didn't. That is the dumbest move that you could ever make. If you're up against a red S tier enemy and he's kicking your butt, you don't use your 50% curse on him. That's dumb. And so it doesn't make sense to me why he suddenly got this big power up, charge up. Oh, I'm super angry. I'm going to glow blue and I'm going to attack you. And sure, the notification did pop up and say, fatal strike. So he was using his critical skill. But I don't know. It's one of those moments where it's like Superman fighting Abomination, Apocalypse. What was his name? The one that killed him. Doomsday. Superman fighting Doomsday, right? If you go to the comic, the last blows that you see, Doomsday is dealing them, not Superman. Or wait, no, Superman's dealing them, not Doomsday. Crap. It's been a long time. I just remember it being that it looked like one was
Your analogy's falling apart.
I know it is. But the point is, he was losing. He was losing hard. And then all of a sudden, he's winning. And there's no real justification for it, other than, I want to win. I'm going to win.
Well, his emotions came into it.
Exactly. Same thing that happened last time, and I hate that. So I did not like the way the fight ended, but it's not the only thing I didn't like here. This whole thing is terrible. I hate it. So.
Do you think a boxer's ever won a fight that he was losing just because he like willed himself to win?
I doubt after this level of a beating, I doubt it.
That's not what I asked. I'm just throwing out a Reddit, not even related. Don't worry about it.
Well, I mean, anything's possible. I won't say it's not possible, but
got you. I win. No.
But no, I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, boxing is such a skill sport. That's probably an honest thing. I wonder if there is such a thing. It's got to be possible, but also very, very unlikely.
Yeah.
All right. So, are we moving the final review?
No, we have another episode.
We got quite a bit to
Dang
go.
The final.
We have more bad decisions to get through.
That wasn't even the real quest. That was a warm up, a mini boss.
Yeah.
Basically the room starts flooding with knights teleporting in, and a thing that says survive as long as you can. However long you live, you get a bonus based on it.
Mm-hmm.
So he starts fighting these knights. He's like, yeah, okay, I'm doing all right, but it's not going great. And then he starts losing, and then he starts hearing voices telling him he's weak. He sees his old self which has a very similar vibe to the throned emperor. I think it was in the smile to me that I was like, is this the statue guy? Is this him? Is he back? Is this his real self showing up? I know it's played as like this is just my subconscious, creating doubt. But at one point he's like, I'll see that guy again. Like that was a physical entity in the room mocking him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys thought that. All right. He's gonna lose, but then, hey, he forgot to do his daily quest, which means he's going back to the desert to fight the centipedes. Jeremy would like to clarify. And now he's like, oh yeah, I can beat these guys, and you weren't allowed to use full recovery or potions in the last dungeon, but hey, here rules are different. Just starts chugging mana or filling up his fatigue bar, getting his health back up.
Well,
his
he
health
can only
bar
do a
does
little
not
bit
go back up because of the
because he has
damage
real
taken.
physical injuries. He has to either heal them or level
level
up.
up solo.
mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm about to solo level all over this place, and he does. And then, I'm assuming 4 hours later, he goes back to the knights. Oh, he's like, oh yeah, that's right. I have this new skill that I didn't activate from from Ignis, and I have a knife that specifically works well on armored enemies like knights.
Which he
and
bought out of the market,
He did buy. You're right.
which is kind of cool. See, and that's
he
another
got the
thing I think
helmet from
was
Ignis.
yeah, another thing I think was not really played up as much as it should have been is if this game has microtransactions and loot boxes and all of that stuff, it should also have fun events.
How awesome would it have been
Skins.
if he saw the knife and he was like, that knife would be perfect. And he's like, oh, I don't have enough crystals. But then a pop-up came up and it said, pay for crystals. And he pulls out his credit card
Yes.
and he got the crystals to then get the knife. That would have been
I love it. I love it. I think they could have done a lot.
Jeremy, the game does have skins. Because the armor he's wearing is invisible, so whatever clothes he puts on is the skin.
Yeah. I just mean like think about themed skins in the market.
Like he could get a Nicki Minaj skin.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Works in Call of Duty, why can't it work in solo leveling?
Oh, there's the Snoop Dogg skin.
Cheech and Chong just added to Call of Duty. You can kill a guy by blowing smoke in his face.
Can we finish this?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, he goes back. He's slaying knights left and right. It's really easy now. And he's like, well, nothing's happening. I'm not getting XP. They realize, oh, it's because there's mages who are summoning the knights. They're summons. They don't count. So he slays.
Noob.
He starts slaying the mages who bring in a golem, which he slays, and then he just wins. And then he gets his job. He gets to be a necromancer. And because he didn't end he actually won the bonus level instead of just surviving a length of time, he gets all the bonus points. And it's like, oh, okay, you're going to be a necromancer. He's like, no, that sucks. And it's like, but it's a secret class. Oh, okay, yes. And so then
I'll find a way.
And then it's like, oh, let's just skip past that and make you like ultimate dark warlock of all time, Master Universe.
No.
It's a 5-star class.
Yeah. S tier.
And he can awaken souls and then enslave them to him. He can have 20, and he does it on Ignis, which takes 3 tries.
But we knew it would succeed.
Right.
Because why else would he do it?
Wouldn't it be hilarious if the third time it was a failure and it was just like, womp womp?
That would have been great. I would have loved it.
So yeah, now and Ignis and a bunch of these random knights and mages are now, he has 20, or I guess 12 right now in his necromancer party.
Oh, don't forget about the island. We get a final shot of the.
We did it. We covered it in the back of the episode 1. Yep. We already even talked about the
but
wings.
Now they're in the helicopter.
Oh my god, no.
Now they're looking at the evolved flying ant.
Oh, dude. Oh, my favorite part though is it's like he summons Ignis. He attaches him, gets him, and it's like name him. And he's like, I'll name him Ignis.
P tier Griffon.
Dude, just hit the default button and hit OK. You don't
Yeah.
need to type it out. It's
Spell it.
fine. Okay. Well, we are done with solo leveling. Let's go to final reviews. You guys want me to go first? This is
Yeah.
my pick.
Yeah, you
You know what? You never do go first. Go
I
ahead.
never do go first. I'm gonna give it a 2.
Anything
Mostly,
to expand upon that?
I don't know if you guys know this. I don't like power fantasy.
Since
Yeah.
when?
Sorry. I do like Superman though, but that's because it's more about the ethical questions of how Superman handles the power. Where this is just about a guy looking for his next big payday
For Mom, who's in the hospital.
for mom in the hospital.
Yeah, for mom.
And some guys made fun of him, so now he needs to become super powerful and start murdering people. And he'll get L. He'll get him. Get his name in that notebook.
Wrong anime.
Oh, yeah, 2 for solo leveling. Visually great. I watched the English dub. I thought the dub was well done. I just found the story boring. I'm gonna tell a story. On YouTube, there was a YouTube short that said why solo leveling is epic, and I'm like, okay, why? And the guy talked for like 30 seconds, and I never even heard a reason. So whatever. He was like, it's like the perfect simple power fantasy, and I'm like, how is that anywhere near enough to be entertaining? All right, 2 for me. Let's go on to the people. This is why I don't go first.
I finished the anime, and the last fights I really found fun to watch. And also, I am a big fan of power fantasies. And I walked away from it going, man, I might give this a 4. And then I thought about it, and I was like, I know nothing about the world. I know nothing about these portals, and I know nothing about any of the side characters. And the main character is kind of boring. Maybe it's a 3. And then after tonight, now that we've been talking about it, and I can't stand a lot of these story beats. In fact, I'm wondering where the story is. I'm still looking for it. I don't like this anime. The animation is beautiful. The music's decent. And I think the fight scenes were decently done. But it's not good. It's a 2.
So I'm going to give it a 3. I love the idea and I love the world that they've set up. And I'm going to imagine that they're going somewhere with it. And I'm
judging
really...
it based off potential. Sad.
Well, it's not just potential. it's based on like whether I've interpreted things correctly. If things are as I've interpreted them to be, then I'm intrigued enough to give it a 3. If
So
I'm
what
wrong,
Jeremy's saying is this anime can totally solo level itself.
Yes, it can get better, man.
Sure, you're the worst.
Well, I love how like I love how in the end of episode 12 when he gets his like undead army, he's like, now I don't have to solo level. But there's so much they could have done with this. I wanted to give it a 4 as well when I finished watching it. But I just they fell flat really hard. So it's a 3 for me. I'll give it a 3.
I do want to say when we got done, I've been waiting for the end of the podcast. I'm gonna go look up how this ends. I know the manga is over. I just want to see what I missed. Like, what is the hook? Where is it going? And if Jeremy's right, if there is something bigger and deeper going on, happy to eat my words. I just didn't see it. I couldn't find it. All right. Our next anime, which I'm sure will go better. God help us if we don't.
So.
Frieren, something journey and Death Note. Yeah, we're watching the first 14 episodes of
Beyond Journey's End.
Yep, that's what I said.
Because it was so close.
Yeah. That's what we're watching next for the first 14 episodes. If you have thoughts on Solo Leveling, God help us, please either submit them on our Twitter at Baka Podcast, or better yet, our website, theanimebakaclub.com, has a contact us page, or wherever you happen to find this podcast, if there's a way to contact us, review us, whatever, just click all that stuff. Just start clicking. Whatever you're doing, just click. It'll probably work out best for us. And I think I've driven us straight down into the depths of hell, and we should be done here.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
Sayonara.